everyone back up to the dais for the last part of our meeting. I think it's all construction here on out. All right, next item. Let's see, do we have a quorum? We have a quorum. We do. And Jill's here, and Dr. Nyland's here. Okay, I'm going to start anyway, because you're coming here. 8, multiple funding sources. Final acceptance of contract P5055 with Bailey Construction for the Seattle World School at TT Minor Modernization Project.
Yes, Richard Best, Director of Capital Projects and Planning for Seattle Public Schools. Your acceptance of this project is required for us to close out this process with 3 state agencies, Department of Labor, Employment Securities, and Department of Revenue. This project was constructed by Bailey Construction. Well, it was designed by TCF with input from Seattle World School SSTAT team, constructed by Bailey Construction, completed in the fall of 2016. We've worked with principals to kind of fine-tune the building, and we're now recommending acceptance of this project. So open it up to questions, given the late hour.
Any questions or comments? Director Pinkham?
If you can just share the change order, seems like a pretty high percentage for
There were just 17 change orders on this project, comprised of 229 change order proposals. The change order amount was $1,203,676. It's a percentage-wise of 8.8%. And Director Pinkham, on renovation projects that are not historic renovations, and this was not a historic renovation of this building, I look for change orders to be below 10%. So I think this is in a fair range. On new projects, I look for that ratio to be about 5%. On historic renovations, below 15%. So I think this is in the range that was anticipated. So.
All right, doesn't look like we have any more questions or comments on this one, so let's move on to number 9, BTA 4. Modification to contract K1243 for architectural and engineering services, Malum Architects for the Magnolia Elementary School renovation and addition project.
Yes, so this is to modify the architects and engineers contracts for the agreement that you approved earlier tonight to construct the building with Forma Construction for Magnolia Elementary School. The increase is really related to 4 items. One was in January of 2017, the board increased the contract amount $4,107,108. So the architect is getting a fee for that compensation. In addition, the architect had requested a fee for a SEPA appeal. They had anticipated in their original negotiations having to participate in a SEPA hearing and prepare the SEPA documents, working with our consultants and our project manager. They did not anticipate that the project would have an appeal. The project did have an appeal, and so those are the costs associated with that appeal from the architects that we received. Third bullet point is the additional meetings that were required by the Landmarks Preservation Board. The architect had anticipated 2 meetings with the Landmarks Preservation Board. 8 meetings were required. There's preparation, extensive preparation that goes into those Landmarks Preservation Board meetings. So you're paying not only for the meeting, but for the preparation that goes into that meeting to get Landmarks Board approval. And the last item was a minor fee adjustment for some work associated with the MAC increase that you approved tonight. And you'll see it is not at all commensurate with bullet point number 1. So, and the fee associated with bullet point number 1. We were not compensating them for being over budget. We had an agreed upon MAC, and so you'll note in the bullet point there are no architect's fees, and the mechanical engineer, whom we made a substantial adjustment to in the mechanical system, reduced his fee by a third. So,
Questions, comments? Okay, thank you. Next item, that is Beck's, item 10, Beck's 4, Wing Luke Elementary School Replacement Project, Value Engineering Report, State Funding Assistance.
so value engineering is required by OSPI for us to submit for Form D7. Value engineering is kind of a brainstorming process. I like to think of it as a brainstorming process, having some of your peers come in and look at your work, and then identify potential measures that you may not have seen that potentially could either add value, save cost. In this case, the value engineering team made 56 different recommendations. 21 were either accepted or partially accepted by the design team, and 35 were rejected for reasons of not meeting our educational programs, not meeting our technical standards, or creating some longer-term maintenance cost issues that would impact the general fund. So, open it up to questions.
Questions, comments? Director Pinkham?
Brought up in public testimony was about demolishing a 12-year-old addition.
Yes, we are demolishing. We did extensively look at trying to save that addition, Director Pinkham. It is located right in the middle of that school site. And it is programmatically, it would not work with the new buildings, so the recommendation was to demolish that addition.
And then for the record, as when we asked to secure new funds to make new capital projects, don't we also say that the new building will be in use for X number of years? Was there anything that we need to address with that?
Yep, I will. I'll go back and check on that to see how that was funded. That's a good question. I have to look into that. So I'll go back and let you know at the next board meeting.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions or comments about this item? Okay, let's move on to the next one. Item 11, Beck's 4, approval of modification number 2 to contract P1481 with Radixos?
Radiox?
Oh, Radiox, okay. LLC for consulting services for K-12 furniture selection.
Yep. So this, too, is a contract modification. We entered into an agreement with Radiox approximately a year ago. I know we went through the selection process in November of 2015, but we entered into the agreement with them for about a year ago to help us update our contracts for furniture. Currently, and I think you all are familiar, we have 9 different furniture contracts that exceed $250,000. We are trying to simplify this and get more continuity in our furniture selection process and not have so many manufacturers involved, which complicates not only the opening of the school, but then also the long-term operational costs for maintaining that furniture equipment. This modification is related to 3 things. Our furniture specification development, we're trying to coordinate our furniture plan with our educational specifications. We have increased the amount of room layouts from a quantity of 60 to 183, and then we've asked for more extensive participation in a furniture fair and then also in the bid packages that we anticipate letting early part of next year. So again, I'll open this up to your questions, given the late hour.
Questions, comments? Director Geary?
My notes on this one, I put notes that, and I wish I was more nimble right now, but we had a good discussion about this because the service itself for the amount of money was confusing in that it's, I forget all the details, but my notes were that we were going to add something more about the history of savings on this. I wish I could remember better, but it is so late. Do you recall, Stefan? Vaguely. And I put the who, what, when, where, why, because this is a service that I don't think most people even understand that we engage in and what benefit it has to us. And I know that's referenced here, but for some reason, the discussion we had was to get to something that was a little more transparent in terms of what it is that we're buying.
Okay, so I can go back and look at my notes. We did update this bar after your comments in the Operations Committee, Director Geary, but I'll go back and look at my notes on this bar and see if we can provide further clarification.
Because I'm comparing it and I'm not seeing where those changes are.
The recording in the minutes of the meeting might
You
be
updated this
an
one.
option as well.
I think
This
so,
bar
but
was
I'm not
updated.
sure they're up yet.
You updated, yeah.
Meaning, talk with.
So let me make sure that we uploaded the correct bar then. I'll go back and check that too.
Oh, okay, maybe
Yeah.
that's the issue.
Maybe that's the issue.
Because it doesn't appear to reflect my notes.
Okay,
Thank you.
yep.
Thank you. Any other questions? Okay, on to item 12. BEX 4, final acceptance of contract P5043 with Spee West Construction Company for the Genesee Hills School Replacement Project.
So again, this is a project that opened in the fall of 2016. Spee West Construction Company was the contractor who built this project. This project was designed by BLRB Architects with participation of the Schmitz Park ESTAT team. We had on this project 22 change orders that were comprised of 306 change order proposals. We did have a significant cost for a delay on this project. That was associated with the Oso landslide event. The City of Seattle's Structural Engineering Department asked us to go back because we had some critical slopes on this site, go back and take a further, implement a further analysis to make sure that we would have no soil stability problems. We changed the approach from a geotechnical approach from using pin piles to using auger cast piles. That provides more lateral stability, and so that's what you're seeing in the construction cost change order, and it's articulated in the fiscal impact revenue source portion of this bar.
Questions, comments? Director Geary?
Did you mention, and maybe it's because I was looking at this, but did you my notes say there was a savings of 1.5 million that will be transferred from the project into the program contingency?
That's correct.
Okay. And did we talk about making a note of that within the bar, or is that not something we'd normally include?
We talked about making a note, and I'll make sure that gets included in the next bar. So, or it gets included in the update for action.
Okay, good. Those are good catches. Okay, if there's no further comments on that one, let's go on to item 13, our final item of the evening. BTA 3, BEX 4, final acceptance of contract P5062 with Holmberg Construction for the McGilvra Elementary School Mechanical, Heating, Ventilation, and Air Conditioning (HVAC) Upgrades Project.
And again, this was work that was performed in the summer of 16. They too have completed the contract amount. There's no further activities. This was a relatively small contract, as you can see here, and it was primarily for boiler upgrades and then mechanical system upgrades associated with that boiler system. So,
Director Geary? The trifecta.
I fear maybe there are versions that, unless there were no changes made, I fear the wrong versions were uploaded. This one, we talked about making sure that it was clear that this was phase 2 of a multiple phase project. And I'm not
okay.
seeing that as well. And we talked about how when there are multiple phases, the public gets confused when it looks like we're doing the same thing at a school, or we keep working at
Right.
one school and around the same issue,
This
but
is-
it's never resolving.
This is the second phase of this project, you're right.
And
So-
that's what my notes show, and we talked about adding that
Yeah.
into the background.
And we have a lunchroom addition currently occurring at McGilvra, so I understand the confusion. I'll go back and check that. So,
If there's no further questions or comments, I call this meeting adjourned at 10:54 p.m. Thank you, everybody.
thanks.
Good night and goodbye.